Okay, so we are on episode 27 on page 80. We have left with Beowulf speaking with Hrothgar, Hrothgar promising him riches if he returned, Beowulf swearing loyalty forever to Hrothgar, and basically men exchanging their affinity for each other and their trust and faith in one another. Then the band of Geats, young and brave, marching in their ring-locked armor, reached the shore. The coast guard saw them coming and about to go as he'd seen them before. He hurried down the hillside, whipping his horse, but this time shouted no challenge, told them only how the Geats would be watching too. It would welcome such warriors in shining mail. Their broad-beamed ship lay bobbing at the edge of the sand. They loaded it high with armor and horses and all the rich treasure it could hold. The mast stood high and straight over heaped-up wealth, Hrothgar's and now theirs. Beowulf rewarded the boat's watchman, who had stayed behind, with a sword that had hammered gold wound on its handle. The weapon brought him honor. Then the ship left shore, left Denmark, traveled through deep water. Deck timbers creaked, and the wind billowing through the sails stretched from the mast, tied tight with ropes, did not hold them back, did not keep the ring-proud ship from foaming swiftly through the waves, the sea currents, across the wide ocean, until they could see familiar headlands, cliffs that sprang out of Geatish soil. Driven by the wind, the ship rammed high on the shore. Harbor guards came running to greet them, men who for days had waited and watched for their beloved comrades to come across the waves. They anchored the high-bowed ship, moored it close to the shore, where the booming sea could not pull it loose and lead it away. Then they carried up the golden armor, the ancient swords, the jewels, brought them to Hygelac's home, their ring-giver's hall near the sea, where he lived surrounded by his followers. He was a famous king, with a fitting high hall and a wife, Hygd, young but wise and knowing beyond her years. So, the Geats prepare to leave. The watchman has been guarding their ship. Beowulf rewards him for that. There then is the transition to over the sea back to Geatland. And we know that the ship is filled with treasure and has what's described to as a stormy journey back. Not as smooth as when they arrived. And then we meet Hygelac, who is Beowulf's king, and then we have a description of his wife, Hygd. Remember the importance of the role of women. She is seen as young but very, very wise. And now we're going to hear a story of Thrith and Offa, okay? He was a famous king with a fitting high hall and a wife, Hygd, young but wise and knowing beyond her years. She was Hereth's daughter, a noble queen with none of the niggardly ways of women like Thrith. Hygd gave the Geats gifts with open hands, but Thrith was too proud, an imperious princess with a vicious tongue, and so fierce and wild that her father's followers averted their eyes as she passed, knowing that if anyone but their king watched where she walked, her hands would shape a noose to fit their necks. So Hygd is compared against this woman Thrith. And Thrith was, like Hygd, very young, but extremely selfish and very, very evil. So much so that anyone who looked at her inappropriately, she would actually have them put to death. So she abused her power, unlike Hygd. She would lie. Her father's lieutenants would write out her warrants, and he who had stared would end his life on the edge of an ancient sword. And how great a sin for a woman, whether fair or black, to create fear and destruction, for a woman who should walk in the ways of peace, to kill with pretended insults. But Hemming's kinsman tamed her. His hall guests told a different story, spread the news that Thrith had forgotten her gory tricks once her wise father had sent her to a wedding with Offa, married her to the brave young soldier, sent her across the yellow-green sea to that gold-adorned champion, a fierce fighter in war or peace. They praised her, now, for her generous heart and her goodness, and the high and most noble paths she walked, filled with adoring love for their leader of warriors, her husband. He was a man as brave and strong and good, it is said, as anyone on this earth, a spear-bold soldier who knew no fear, exalted with gifts, victorious in war, a king who ruled his native land wisely and well. Emer was his son, Hemming's kinsman, Garmund's grandson, a powerful swordsman with his warrior shield. So we have the story of Thrith and Offa, and Thrith, as a young woman, as a young single woman, is evil and abuses her power. But as soon as her father realizes what he needs to do with her, which is send her to this very famous, brave, and strong warrior, Offa, she changes. So what's interesting is that when Offa comes and marries her, he kind of puts her in her place. And actually, it said he tames her. Now, because of Offa, she is a good woman. She is kind, she is generous, she is noble. She is all those things that Hygd is, and what we want all of our women to be. Think Hygd and Wealhtheow. They are the epitome of good, strong women because their husbands, Hrothgar and Hygelac, are good, strong, victorious men. So then you have to think about, what does this really say about women in this society? Yes, they are powerful, they are wise, they are foretelling the future, they are extremely persuasive, but only when they are molded properly by successful men.